Oh, there you are, YouTube. So I'm getting ready to leave to see Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. Very excited about this movie. I love the Ghostbusters. And I figure I should kind of dress up for the occasion. So I'm getting my gear ready. Let me show you what I've got in store for wearing to the theater. All right, so here I got this jacket here with some Ghostbusters pins on it. Of course, we got Slimer. We got the No Ghosts. We got Venkman right here when he's doing that little dance little thing when he's waiting to talk to Dana. We got our proton packs. Our proton pack, I should say. We better make sure it is charged. I think that's it. Yeah, that's Beetlejuice. What do we got over here? We got some other stuff. So yeah, we got that. And then we got the shirt right here with the main four. I'm talking about Ray. I'm talking about Peter. I'm talking about Winston. I'm talking about Egon. Now, this I've, kind of grown out of. It's very wrinkly, but I don't know. I'll try and get it on. And if I can't fit in it, I'm going to wear my Scrooged shirt with Venkman on it, and that's what I'll wear. So, yeah, this is what I got. I got some Ghostbusters pins on the jacket and a Ghostbusters shirt I'll be wearing on my chest. Oh, dang, I almost forgot. Also, Ghostbusters socks. I'll be wearing those today. All right, here we go. Little Ghostbusters right there. Got some Busters right here. This shirt, very tight, but it's okay. We're going to wear it anyway. I got the socks on, and I think we're ready to go. I think we're going to go to an AMC. Maybe they'll have the trap buckets. I think that the trap is the popcorn buckets they have. So we may look into getting one of those. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I cannot wait to watch this movie. I hope it's good. I've been seeing reviews that say it's bad. I've been seeing reviews that say it's good. I've been seeing reviews that are kind of in the middle. So who knows? They're kind of everywhere. I'm curious to see what I'm going to think. But let's go. Back from the theater from seeing Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and I guess I got to start off by saying I do not think this movie was bad. I don't even think it was mediocre. I feel like it was great. I really enjoyed it. It felt like, to me, if Ghostbusters films never halted, and let's say we had 10 of them, 10 Ghostbusters movies, and this felt like to me, like a good entry into a franchise with maybe like 10 films. Like, think of Bond. And I know we don't have that many movies, so we want each one of them to be like extra epic, sort of like stand on its own. I mean, not saying this doesn't stand on its own, but like a grand epic ordeal or something, right? It's kind of like how when we have Endgame, Avengers Endgame, everything after it has just kind of felt like eh. And I feel like with this movie, it feels like, again, had we had movie after movie after movie after movie, this would be a really good installment in the franchise. I sort of felt like it was similar to the television show in that regard, like Real Ghostbusters. I loved that show as a kid, and it's very much like Freak of the Week, Monster of the Week, and that's how this felt. It felt like a really good installment of maybe like an episode of Real Ghostbusters, and to me, that's a good thing. I really like that, and it kind of felt like, hey, we can keep making more of these. Maybe they need to find a way to make them cheaper, but I want this sort of thing to keep happening. Like, there's one thing, I don't even know if I should get into that. Should I get into it now? I'll get into it later, but I loved seeing the original Ghostbusters back doing more than just tiny little cameos. Like, they're sort of woven into the story quite a bit more, especially Winston and Ray. You do have that with Peter as well, but his part, I feel like, is smaller. Same with Janine. Also, spoilers. I'm going to put that in the title. This is going to be pretty spoiler, I'm sure. I'm going to talk like you've seen it. But I think that was some of my favorite stuff, is when we have Ray, and Ray had such a great story. I think McKenna Grace also had a great story. But everything that was going on with Ray, where, it was about him aging and not wanting to necessarily give this stuff up, and wanting to continue to do this in his old age. And Winston's like, hey, we need to be maybe like the way he's just bankrolling it, right? He's not out there doing dangerous stuff. He's like, you need to stop with the dangerous stuff. Go visit some ruins or something like that. Do more studying. You don't have to be a part of this. It's dangerous, and it could be dangerous for the kids also. So I thought Dan Aykroyd. I thought Ray had such a good arc in it, and we're seeing him throughout the movie. Like actually incorporated into the story. He's along for the ride. He's not in it fully, but this is a pretty big cast here. But he's there for a big chunk of the movie and for significant parts of the movie that matter, and I like that. And it's great to see Winston in his role, and I felt like he had a lot to do here, and it felt more like Winston from the first movie, because I always felt like they sort of changed Winston in Ghostbusters 2. I think they're going for like a sillier version, I think because the cartoon was so successful. So I wasn't always as big of a fan of him in the second movie. But I love him in the first movie, and here I feel like we can see the first film Winston quite a bit. Like the way he confronts Ray just felt great, and that their conversation in this movie was wonderful, and it took me back to their conversation in the Ecto from the first movie. Like why do you think we're seeing all this stuff, when he's asking about religion and stuff like that. It was nice to see the new members also. I think Paul Rudd being cast as a new Ghostbuster in the previous film was a wonderful idea. So many of our comedians today are very silly and act over the top, but I don't think he does. He feels like a person, a real human that just is naturally funny. And I think that's what the Ghostbusters are. At least that's what Peter Venkman is. And I mean, even Egon was that way. He was, very dry, but he would have like a funny thing to say here and there that was very dry, but it wasn't silly. And I love that. I had a professor like that in college. He'd just hit you with a joke that you wouldn't expect, and he'd still be kind of like serious faced with it. He wasn't like waiting, hey, where's the applause, wink wink, I just made a funny joke. And that was my problem with Ghostbusters 2016. Because everybody was trying to land a joke, and I don't think that's happening here because of the way it was cast. Like Carrie Coon, she's doing wonderful. McKenna Grace doing great. Podcast might be, the one person who is, everything he's doing is looking for a laugh, and maybe Wolfhard too, but he still feels very naturalistic, right? That's what it is. There's a naturalism to him, and I think some of the side characters don't have a naturalism to them. A lot of the new characters we met don't. Lucky has a naturalism, but the new characters I don't think we do. Like Nanjiani, he doesn't have he feels extra silly. Like he feels like his jokes were sort of written or improv'd for a laugh. But it's so minimal, I feel like it works, and it just, again, reminds me of the cartoon a little bit. So that all really worked for me. Patton Oswalt, he's in the film as well, and I was worried about him because when I saw him in the trailer and the way he was acting, I was like, I don't know if I like this, because we only saw a snippet, and I was like, I don't know, I think you're going to be too silly for this movie. But I don't think he was barely in it, which I liked. And he wasn't overly silly, so all of that was good. It's like everything I was worried about did not happen in the movie, and some things that I guess did worry about but knew were going to be better were I guess improved upon from the previous film, and that being the legacy characters, because in Afterlife, they do just sort of show up at the end as cameos, and they just kind of stand there, right? They don't have any real action. And again, I already talked about that with Ray and Winston, how they have stuff to do here. But Bill Murray, he doesn't move a lot in this movie. There's a part where he's just like standing the whole time. He's got, some movements or did I say standing? He's sitting the whole time. And, when he's like throwing the pencils, again, I got to remember, I'm talking to you like you've seen it. When he's throwing the pens, that's fun to see and everything. But, Janine's sort of in this position also. Actually, all of the original Ghostbusters are they sort of get like trapped in the firehouse, and they're just like standing there, and they're standing there watching things happen. And they do get frozen and sort of put in like an ice jail, and that, helps make it a little bit more okay. But there are moments where they're all just like standing there, and that's kind of just how the Ghostbusters fighting style is. They're standing, and then there's the bad guy, and then they're all just standing in a row blasting him, right? So I think something that needs to change for future films, in the first Avengers movie, how they have that long take where we're watching like I think it's the heroes, they're positioned along different parts of New York City, and then they are battling all of these bad aliens and things, and we're moving around the city watching that happen. I think that needs to happen in a Ghostbusters movie. The next Ghostbusters movie needs a more dynamic busting scene. So I can't really fault it in this movie because that's just the tradition of how Ghostbusters fight bad guys and ghosts. So, but I would like to see something a little bit more dynamic in a really cool, it doesn't have to be in a one take or anything like that, but positioned along different areas of the city. And like that would have been a great opportunity. We see them in the Ecto moving around. That's really awesome. But I like to see them in the city, standing in the city, blasting ghosts in different locations. McKenna Grace is over here, Podcast is over here, Venkman's over here, Ray's over here, Winston, Gruberson, Carrie Coon, they're all in different areas and they're all doing things. Finn Wolfhard, and maybe have them like pair up. A couple of them are pair up, like Finn and his mom are together or something like that, blasting ghosts. That's what I want to see. I want to see if we keep making these movies, which I really hope they do. I really love this movie, but I want it to be like, it doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a franchise that just needs to keep going and going and going. To me, that's how I feel about it, and I'm cool with that. I want that to happen. I don't think it needs to be something, like a Precious, because to me, if they only made the first movie and no other one, I would say never make any more. Keep it a standalone. But they made a second one. And there's a lot about the second one I don't like. So because they made the second one, I say now it's fair game to keep making them forever, because the second one's not as good. And the only way I think they should ever stop making them is if they make one better than the original. Or as good. Equally as good or better. And I don't think they've done that. I think they're making very good movies. I think this was a very good and fun movie. So, gosh, what else did I want to say? Slimer's in it. I had some ideas of how Slimer should be introduced, and I'll probably reenact those with my Playmobiles someday in a video. The way he was introduced was fine. It worked, but it wasn't my idea. My idea was different, and it would have involved the previous film, Afterlife. I would have liked him to be introduced in Afterlife, and I have a whole sequence I've written in my mind of how that should have happened. But it was really cool to see him. The little Stay Puft little guys, they are kind of dumb, but they are not in this too much to ruin the movie. I think, they're like the Ewoks. They're there for the kids. The kids will like it. There's some scary stuff in here. Like the bad guy, he's scary, but they have like locked up ghosts in like glass cages, basically. And there is one of them that just looks absolutely terrifying. It reminds me of things you would see in the books, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And it was like lurking in the very dark black glass cage. And it was freaky, and I thought we were going to see more of it, and we really didn't. Maybe they're going to save that for another movie. I want them to keep making these. I like them a lot. I liked this one a lot. And, oh yeah, so, you know what, maybe I should make this its own video also. I have an idea for the next one. I should, I don't know, write the script and send it to Sony, but I know what they need to do for the next Ghostbusters. I got it. I know exactly what needs to happen and why it needs to happen the way it happens. Actually, maybe it should be not the next movie, but the following movie. So they should make a next movie however they want, and then mine should be the next one afterwards. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that's how it should be. Because the next one I think should be catching all the loose ghosts that are out now. maybe there's a bad one out there, but all the loose ghosts, kind of catch them, and then we can sort of start fresh again with a major baddie, and I got an idea for it. But yeah, I thought it was great. I don't think it felt overstuffed with characters. I was able to follow everybody pretty well. Um, because that's a criticism I've been hearing. Slow, I kind of like that. I like all the learning that's going on when we're following Ray. All of that was really cool. McKenna's Phoebe's side quest, side story, or whatever. All of that was great. I loved her little subplot. I think, I don't know, I just really liked it. Like, I guess Finn Wolfhard didn't have much to do, but it paid off in a joke, I feel like. Because he's kind of dealing with Slimer the entire movie. It's all like inconsequential, but then something happens at the end, and with Slimer, and Finn like gets a great line out of it, a funny little joke. I mean, I laughed anyway. Our theater did, and it was. I thought there was a payoff there. He didn't have much to do, but he had a story. You know, he just turned 18. He's feeling like an adult. They're not treating him like one, but he's also not acting like one. And at the end, you know, his dream is to drive the Ecto, and they finally let him do it. So, yeah, there was a lot of good stuff. I wish I want it to be more dynamic with the final battle instead of just standing in a row. That's what needs to happen, and get the regular or the original guys moving around a little bit more somehow, and bring back Rick Moranis. Find a way. Find a way. The way I think they should have. If you remember from Ghostbusters Afterlife, Janine and Winston are talking, and I think Winston says, I had one employee when he started his business that made him all the millions, right? I started with one employee. What should have happened was Janine should have said, and Lewis never forgot what you did for him. Lewis never forgot what you did for him. And then that might almost sound like he's dead. But then maybe Winston could say, how is he doing? And then she goes, he's doing great. I don't know. And then she says something about what he's doing. But then that sort of suggests that her and Lewis ended up together, which is suggested in Ghostbusters 2. And that's what's cool about this movie also, because it mentions Ghostbusters 2. Afterlife didn't. Afterlife almost acted like Ghostbusters 2 didn't happen, but this movie acknowledges it. And that's something I like. But they didn't mention Oscar at all. Is Oscar around? I was wondering, the Egon-looking dude in this movie, whose name I forgot, something Field, I can't remember, British accent or something. I was wondering if he was going to be Oscar, you know, from Ghostbusters 2, little baby Oscar. But he wasn't. Oscar's not in it. I don't know. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Like, I thought it was very good. And I want them to keep making them. It felt like a great installment for a franchise that just continues to go. And I love the cast. I think the cast is great. Paul Rudd is exactly who I'd want. Carrie Coon is exactly who I'd want. Phoebe's doing great. Finn Wolfhard. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of... he's fine. I don't think either way with him. Maybe they do need to give him more to do, but I like what... I guess I do like what they did with him here. And... yeah, I guess, you know, I like that he's not like a comedian. You know, because I remember, like, when we were talking about there needs to be a Ghostbusters 3 years ago, people were like, yeah, it's got to be like, you know, Will Ferrell and Vince Vaughn, and, you know, it's got to be the frat pack, you know, Owen Wilson, and it's like, I don't know, that would be a little too silly for me. Like, maybe Vince Vaughn could be in it, but Will Ferrell could never be a Ghostbuster. He's just too silly. Too silly. He couldn't do it. He couldn't rein it in. I don't think he could rein it in for a Ghostbusters movie. I think Vince Vaughn could do it, but he would have to be like the funniest guy there, and that's it. Like, no one else could be a comedian around him. Same thing with Owen Wilson. You could have Owen Wilson, but you couldn't have anyone else trying to out comedy him. And that was, again, the problem with 2016. You have all of these comedians fighting each other. And that's what's wonderful about the first Ghostbusters. Everybody knows that Bill Murray is the funny guy. Everybody knows that, and they let him be the funniest person in the room, and I love that about it. And then Ray his comedy comes from his language, the way in which he speaks, and his knowledge and all of that. And then Egon, his comedy comes from his dryness and the fact that he's got zero humor to him. And then you have Winston, Ernie Hudson. I mean, we got a dramatic actor there, so he doesn't have ties to that comedic style at all. He is our entry into the Ghostbusters and understanding the sciences, because we're following along with him. The first one is genius. First one is genius, and I think the casting for Afterlife was great, and it creates wonderful sequels like this one where things don't feel too silly, unlike 2016 right here, which is just too darn silly. But you know, it's its own thing, so it's not like it matters because it wasn't a part of this canon. So you know, it's the silly version. You know, so you know, it can be silly because it's not a part of this. But anyway, let me know what you thought of the movie. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I really did. Who else out there loved it? Anybody? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and perhaps we'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.